Welcome to the Worship Keys YouTube channel. My name's Carson. Glad you're here. We talk all things music theory, gear, industry, and ministry for your worship keys playing. I want to thank Aerospace Audio for being a sponsor of this episode. They provide high-quality atmospheric pads for your performances or worship services. You can run the pads off of their app on your iPhone or iPad, or you can use their really cool Atmosphere foot pedal to where the sounds come out physically from this pedal, which is really cool. You can check out their products on aerospaceaudio.com. So now let's get into today's episode. Today I am talking with Dave Wyatt, better known as Ddub. And listen, he is a Grammy award-winning producer, songwriter, keys player. He's been on tour and been good friends with Toby Mac for a long time, which so much respect for Toby Mac and his career. If you're watching on YouTube, beautiful Kawhi piano right here, which I know we're going to hear a little bit of you play today. How long did you play with Toby Mac?
Almost 25 years.
25 years.
I retired from the road in December.
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Honestly, I love being home. I miss all my friends. They're like my best friends, so yeah. I miss that. I miss playing a little bit on stage, loving being home.
That's awesome.
It's nice to get to know my wife.
Yeah.
We've been married for 32 years.
Wow, congrats, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
So
I'm
good.
probably driving her a little bit crazy, but
No. I'm sure not. When you joined Toby Mac and the guys, it was 1999? Is that right?
yeah, I started playing with DC Talk in 99. It was like the summer of 99. The Supernatural record was out. They had done a tour of that, and then they were starting their summer festival season off that record, and that's when I joined.
So cool.
Yeah.
I know we have
It was awesome.
I love DC Talk, Jesus Freak, and just all the cool singles that came out of that, and the Freak Show, you know.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Can you tell us, like, how was your connection into DC Talk and the Toby Mac world? Like, how did you get the call? How did that come to be, man?
I moved to town with a band that was just about to get signed. They were called Reality Check.
Awesome.
And they were kind of like a DC Talk almost.
Yeah.
They had, it was rapping and rock combined. And, there was a huge buzz around about them. And so I did that for about a year and a half.
Awesome.
And so that's how I got to town. I was playing bass. I enjoyed that. I was like living the dream, like that's what I wanted to do. But I was not making any money. Like, I think I made literally, I want to say $8,000 my first year in Nashville.
Wow.
So barely getting by,
Crazy.
On the road. And when you're home, you're like doing temp jobs, whatever you can do to survive. I had a wife. My son was, I want to say 3 months. No, he was 6 months when we moved to Nashville.
Wow.
So I could not keep doing that. So
you were playing bass at the time?
I was playing bass.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And I wouldn't say I was a bass player really either. I mean, I kind of played bass.
Okay.
Probably like a lot of us in Nashville. I decided to leave just because I needed to have a supportive wife and kid.
Absolutely.
And so, but when I left, I was like, that's it. But about 3 weeks later, I got a call. So I auditioned for a group called Art of DJing.
Okay.
And they were like an R&B pop trio that were on Toby's label. That summer, we did a tour with DC Talk, and that's how I got to know like the band guys of DC Talk, and Kevin and Michael and Toby a little bit, but really I got to know the band guys.
Absolutely, right.
And yeah, so I'm playing with Out of Eden and touring with them some, and their keyboard player from DC Talk was Jason Halbert, was leaving to do Sonic Flood because Sonic Flood was like blowing up.
Right.
And so he left to do that, and I auditioned and got the gig. And which was awesome. I was a huge fan of DC Talk before getting the gig. So, like, I think I took a week to like learn all this stuff. Like, stop doing my temporary work I was doing to audition. Like, learn the stuff backwards and forwards. And so my audition went great. I landed the gig, and when they called, I'll never forget. And like the manager called, and we're talking. He tells me I've got the gig, so I'm like telling my wife, and she literally screams so loudly in the background. I was like, calm down, because I didn't know what I'd be making yet at that point, so I didn't want to be too excited. But yeah, I was a huge fan, so like landing that gig was major.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's so great. And I have to ask you too. So this was 1999. And in that time, you said beforehand, maybe you were making $8,000 as a bass player with this band that you were a part of.
Yes.
Is that
Well, I was a
right?
hired gun.
You were a hired gun.
I was
Okay.
a hired gun, yeah.
Okay. And so when they asked you to be a part of DC Talk, were you also like hired, like, hey, come for this tour? Or what were you at that point when they first asked you? Or were you like a part of the group?
No, I was not part of the group. I
You
was a
just
hired gun as well.
Hired gun as well.
Yeah.
Which is the most of the case. Most of the time the case, right? With
Yeah. Unless it's like a band, it's usually going to be, they're typically hired
Right.
to play. They're not the
I think
artist.
it's incredible that you were like, they reached out to, or you auditioned, they said yes, and they saw enough value in you, of course, because you're amazing, to come in and play keys. But then not just that, but that you were able to stay with at least Toby and them for so long. I think that's a huge thing to say, because a lot of people, I mean, I guess especially nowadays, you know more about the industry obviously than I would ever know, but I think a lot of times people jump ship so quickly. Can you speak on like the longevity of your relationship with Toby and the other guys from over the years, and how, like, why did you play with him for so long, and why did you keep doing what you did for so long? Which, by the way, if I was playing for Tobymac, I would have tried to play for as long as I could, but I think it speaks to both ways. Like, he saw value in you saw value in being with him, like both collectively. Can you speak on like the longevity of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was with Toby that long because of Toby.
That's awesome.
I would not have stuck it out that long, probably with anybody else. He's very loyal, so it kind of creates this thing where you also want to be loyal.
Right.
He cares about people. He doesn't really give up on people, so he'll go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Often with people, which is good and bad, because sometimes it puts him in not so great situations. But he's an amazing human being, so.
That's awesome. I was asking you before the interview too. Sorry to cut you off there, but I know I was asking, like, is he as like excited and smooth and cool as he is on stage, like just like in person? And you're like, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's what you see on stage is pretty much how he is off stage. He's
So
always like relaxed, or always feels relaxed, and he is relaxed, but he's like that all the time.
For sure.
It's
Sorry
just
to
his
interrupt
nature.
the question, but
Yeah.
the longevity. Keep sharing about the longevity of y'all's relationship, and you said it's because of Toby. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he set the tone with everyone. So for him, he doesn't like to let issues linger too long, so he wants to kind of nip things in the bud. So that's kind of how he handles life with the band, and you definitely get a sense that he's doing his best also, for everyone.
That's awesome.
And I will say, I guess this was 2001 maybe. We had been touring, and then he stopped work on a record, but then none of us were working really while he's working on a record. So we had all started to do different stuff. One of our guys got the opportunity to go play with another band, and they brought him on as a band member pretty much, it was a big band too. So he lost his guitarist.
Oh no.
It was Barry Grawl, by the way.
Okay.
And who went to Mercy Me.
Yeah.
When Barry did that, it freaked Toby out because he didn't want to be losing band guys.
Right.
So he decided to start putting people on salary, and he did that. So he just slowly started putting everyone on salary eventually.
What year was that when he started to put people on salary?
It was 2001, 2002.
Okay,
I think
so
it was
pretty
2001,
early on.
And that was before people were really doing salaries.
Wow.
Not that ton of people were doing it now, but
right,
more people are doing that now than they used to.
Right. Can you speak to, so a lot of people listening are keys players, church players, industry professionals, and people that are looking to be in the industry. Can you speak on financially from like when you joined in 1999 and then when you became put on salary in 2002, what kind of pay increase was that? I'm not sure, you don't have to share specifics if you don't want to, but like, were you having to also do other jobs at the time, and how did that transition look like, and how were you taken care of financially through those years?
Yeah, as a player, once we went on salary?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
once we went on salary, it was pretty much enough to sustain in general. It wasn't like gangbusters or anything.
Yeah.
But like, I was able to balance out tour life and to supplement it with production, basically. Is how that worked out for me.
Awesome. And you've always been a producer as well, right?
Pretty much, yeah. A little bit before I started with DC Talk, I had started producing. And then that just carried over into life.
Do you remember when DC Talk kind of broke up and how that looked like? And what happened and all that? Was there any drama? Was there any?
There's definitely drama.
Always drama, right?
No, you have to realize too. I had just joined.
Gotcha.
When I joined, they were starting the process of doing solo projects.
Okay.
So
was it Toby's idea? Whose idea was like, hey, let's split? Was it a management thing? What was the split like?
No, I think DC Talk was kind of Toby's creative outlet. He wrote all the songs. He co-wrote all the songs. He co-produced all the songs.
Yeah.
And then Kevin and Michael would also do some of that, but Toby was always like leading it and pushing it. So Kevin and Michael wanted to do solo projects. Toby didn't even really want to do a solo project, truth be told. So that was kind of the impetus of what started that. And I don't think they didn't really plan on stopping DC Talk. It's just they did solo projects and
then just kind of
kept doing solo projects, and then Toby's solo career took off.
Right. Did they ever do any reunion type stuff over the years for DC Talk?
They've done a few things.
Okay.
We did the biggest thing was really a DC Talk cruise reunion.
Gotcha.
Which were so much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were so much fun.
And people not familiar with DC Talk, you should definitely go listen to their music. But basically, in the '90s, it was like this grunge rock Christian music. How would you describe DC Talk?
Yeah, I mean that's it, really.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But even the record right before that, I thought was amazing. Free at Last. That was kind of groundbreaking in itself. And then Jesus Freak came along, and it really was truly groundbreaking, and it set a new tone. Yeah. And there were some parallels there too between Toby's solo career and DC Talk. Like he didn't have any radio with DC Talk success before they got big. Like none. It was just people would come to their shows, they would love it, and they would buy records.
That's awesome.
And then Toby's solo career was like that too. When he didn't have Christian radio, like now he's got tons of Christian radio.
Right.
At the time he didn't, so he was just the same thing. It was just like his shows would drive people to buy the music.
Absolutely. And he's always been an entertainer.
He always, I mean, the whole show is built around is disconnecting with the people in front of us. And if it's not, he's not going to do it.
That's awesome. I love it.
Or we're not going to do it very long.
Right.
He's going to tweak it until it's connecting and figure out why it's not connecting. Yes. And he's obviously a phenomenal communicator too. I often think that's bigger or as big as the music. It's how they communicate, how authentic they feel, if the audience can trust what they're saying.
Absolutely.
In our industry.
Absolutely.
For sure.
What was the hardest thing playing on the road like that for so long? What was the hardest part? I know you said lots of challenges not being home, like the long nights. What was the hardest part of it all, you'd say?
The hardest part of being on the road? Gosh, I guess just balancing the schedule is nuts.
Yeah.
You know, you're on the road, you're not going to bed till 2 or 3.
Right.
And then you get home and, you know, you don't have the ability to sleep in the mornings, you know. So you get home and you got a wife and kids, and you got to jump back into life.
Right.
You know, so that's probably the most difficult part. I think after you've been doing it a while, you've seen the same venues.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that can get a little bit old. And and just every venue kind of feels the same at a certain point. So that can get a little weary for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell me about your Grammy here, 2008 Best Rock or Rap Gospel Album, Alive and Transported, Toby Mac. Tell us about that, man. And how was that for you?
Yeah, that project was fun. I think that probably that Alive and Transported was the name of that DVD.
Yeah.
And I think that record caught us at when we had our most angst, and we had the energy was so crazy.
Yeah.
At that time, because Toby's music then it just lent itself to more, I don't know, creativity and raucous on stage. You know what I mean?
Right.
The cool thing about this was we didn't expect to win at all. You know, because live records don't typically win Grammys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we got it, it was like icing on the cake. It was super exciting.
That's amazing, man.
Wasn't planning on it, thinking about it, and sure enough won. So
that's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Huge bonus.
And you produced that project?
Yeah, and that was
co-produced with
Toby, and that was a ton of fun too.
So cool, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just really capturing what we did live, but making sure we executed well. Yeah.
So great. I want you to share a little bit about really your piano background, which, by the way, DC Talk, those guys, Kevin, Michael, and Toby, they met at Liberty University. and you also graduated from Liberty University, but you started at Berkeley, you said, right?
I did, yeah.
Started at Berkeley, which I think that's cool that you even got into Berkeley for one, then finished at Liberty. Tell us a little bit about your piano background and like for some, I know a lot of people want to hear like, were you classically trained? Did you play exclusively by ear? When did you learn chord charts, the number system, all those things? What was that piano journey for you growing up?
Yeah, totally. I started when I was like 7-ish. I really wanted to play, I was just attracted to that.
Yeah.
So I took basic lessons, the basic piano books, and did that off and on until I was about 12.
Sweet.
And then we moved from one part of the state to another part of Virginia, and probably had about a 2-year break. And then actually my youth pastor challenged me to like, what are you doing? You can kind of play. Why aren't you pursuing that? You're an idiot if you don't. Literally. I think he said that. Really? You're a fool if you don't pursue this.
Yeah.
God's giving you talent. You're just sitting on it. What are you doing?
Thank goodness for youth pastors, man. They'll tell you.
Yeah. So I started taking lessons again, and I don't know what happened, but it was just everything came quickly and it was easy.
That's awesome.
And then I just got passionate about it and started practicing all the time. And I would say I had some classical background. I have some jazz background.
Nice.
So I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none.
There you go.
Basically. But yeah, as far as I think that same youth pastor was also our worship pastor.
Okay, yeah.
And I think when I was 15, they started letting me play on stage.
Yeah.
With the band, and the band was awesome. I think I was the only white guy.
Really?
Which was unique.
Yeah.
But they let me play, and these guys that were at least 10 to 20 years older than me were showing me how to play stuff. And I remember learning, like if I just go, that's major, minor.
Right,
I remember learning that for the first time on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like figuring that out, because I had no clue about that. And when I was probably about 15, I got a piano teacher who had a classical and jazz background, but he was extremely proficient at both.
Nice.
And he would drill theory into me all the time.
That's good,
like all the time. Like I had to tell him what I was playing.
That's awesome.
So I learned theory with him, and it was very helpful. And so I would because he would have me like learn all these, like all kinds of bigger chords and stuff.
Yes.
So I could take that, and then I could immediately apply it at church.
Yes.
Because it was in that like Maranatha days,
Yeah.
As the deer panteth for the water, like all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
That's a bad representation of what I'm about to say, but there'd be like Andre Crouch stuff. So you could
right.
These bigger chords that I was learning with my piano teacher, I could then play at church.
That's awesome.
That's pretty much how I learned, and then I eventually went to college, and then Berkeley was obviously more jazz oriented.
How was Berkeley, man, when you were there?
Yeah, Berkeley was it was amazing. I mean, obviously the musicians are ridiculous.
Right.
And you feel it, like you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? But it was amazing to be around all those musicians. Going to Boston into like such a liberal school, and this was 89 when I went there.
Yeah.
And even at the time, it felt like way off from like way different, I should say, than what I had grown up around. So that was interesting. 18 and
you grew up in Virginia?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How far away were you from Liberty? Was Liberty close to you?
Yeah, fairly. I mean, it was about like, I grew up in like the mountain part of Virginia, like far, I guess, west, almost as west as you can go before you hit like West Virginia and Tennessee.
Gotcha.
Then I moved to the opposite end, close to Virginia Beach, Newport News, when I was 12.
Sweet.
And that was way different culturally, because there's just a lot of culture around there. There's a lot of military and stuff. So that, anyway. Absolutely. And then Liberty's about right in the middle of the state.
Mm-hmm. Playing with Toby Mac, his son passed away just some years back, kind of recent years. How long has it been now?
I think about 4
years.
I think it might be 5 this October, actually.
Been a little bit of some time, which obviously was a tragedy. Many people knew him. Truett's a true dog.
Yeah.
Been on many singles records with Toby over the years too, as he was a kid and stuff. But yeah, passed away. Can you Tell us, man, where were you in that moment, in that season, I guess, and even in that moment, because I believe you were on tour with Toby at that time. Can you tell us kind of how that was and what happened? Like, what was your experience through all that, man?
Yeah, it was a huge gut punch, for sure. I happened to be on the front lounge of the bus. We were on tour.
Yeah.
And I think it was just me and Toby up front, and one of our guys came in, and he was clearly upset, and he was like, "Hey, Toby, can I talk to you in the back?" And he's barely getting it out, and then they go to the back of the bus, and then I think another guy, I think our tour manager came on the bus, and then he didn't tell me what was going on in that exact moment, but I knew it was something super heavy. And about, I don't know, a few minutes later, he told me what was going on, and man, it was just like so heavy and just felt like out of nowhere, and just not on our radar for something that would happen. Right. But it was a gut punch. I mean, I was probably, my wife and kids could tell you, I mean, I was a hot mess for about a week after we got home. We found out that day they canceled that show, and then they canceled the rest of the tour. Toby, it's even in everything that was going on, he made sure the band flew back with him. They got us a private jet so we could just get back as fast as possible. And it was heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, it was heavy, very heavy. Yeah,
can't imagine.
It's heavy in a lot of ways. Yeah, and
so awful.
But it's been you don't really know who you are until you go through something like that. I mean, Toby and his wife Amanda, they've kind of been through the fire and come out on the other side intact, as you can be. It's one of those things, man, in life, like, it just kind of lives with you. But eventually, I feel like in grief, you kind of eventually learn to appreciate the person that's passed in a much more positive way. It's like, my dad died of pancreatic cancer 8 years ago, and
so sorry.
That was like so heavy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And for a long time, all I could do was like think about his suffering and what his last little bit was like. And then it takes a while, or at least it did for me, to where I was like, now I feel like I think about him and I'm happy and it's positive. But yeah, there's a long time there where it was just sadness every time I thought about my dad, which is heavy.
Yeah, that is.
And then it makes you question so much about God.
Yeah.
And like as a Christian growing up, I think especially our American culture, we tend to think of God as very transactional.
Right.
I do this, I live this way, I don't do this, I don't do that, therefore I deserve all these things. Right. And that's not how things work. And that's not how the Bible even says things are going to work.
Yeah.
But we tend to think that, there's a formula for success and that we deserve all these things. And if God doesn't do that, then he's letting us down. He's not holding up his end of the bargain. And I'm thankful to say I'm on the backside of that. I don't feel like I deserve for God to do anything necessarily special for me. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm living with everyone else here. And the best thing I can do is just be the best version of myself.
That's good.
That's God's created me to be, and not have these expectations on God like he's supposed to do all these things. And if that's my motivation, then it kind of doesn't mean anything.
Right. Absolutely, man. That's so good. So good. I want you to talk about your battle with alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, you share with me, I know it kind of sounds like just getting it out there, but I, obviously it's your story to tell, but you said you're how long have you been sober now, man?
I've been sober for 16 months. Yeah.
Amazing. Would you like to share that whole journey with us, man?
Yeah.
Which, praise God for that. I'm so excited for you. And
thank you.
That's incredible.
I've been sober for 16 months. I eventually alcohol had become something I was absolutely dependent on, for sure, in multiple ways. I would turn to it for any time, anxiety, depression. 17 months ago, I would have had 3 high-grav beers before I sat down to do this, just to relax and calm down and not have anxiety.
Wow.
And that was just kind of what I eventually was turning to, And yeah, I mean, life had gotten really, bad with alcohol. I was surviving like most people might not have even known. I would say I was a high functioning alcoholic. I knew how much to have to keep me like level. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so every day was a struggle. So I would wake up, be like, all right, today's the day I'm gonna kick this. And then, around 10:30 start getting the shakes, and you can't really function. You got to go meet someone, and you don't want to meet them with the shakes, so you're drinking just to like get to a base level. And that's what life had become. And it got really bad, and then eventually, it was affecting my marriage in a huge way. And I had passed out one night, and my wife had kicked me out. She's like, for the second time. So we were separated for a couple weeks. And we went to see a counselor, and the counselor was like, man, I really think you should go to rehab. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. I don't have a problem. So, because I was fighting it the whole time. I don't have a problem. I can fix this. It's not an issue. Everybody else is crazy. I had friends coming to me. I didn't have an official intervention, but I had several friends that went way out of their way to meet with me directly. And so I think between just different conversations with friends, the counselor, after that counseling session, I went to a coffee shop, and I just sat there for like 3 hours and just kind of thought about everything, complete with alcohol in a coffee cup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I hated how life felt. It was a struggle. Every day it was a struggle. Anxiety, depression, all of it. Just hiding from all this stuff going on. Yes. And so I made a decision to go to rehab, and I spent 30 days in recovery. And dude, I like, life is so good now. It's insane. Like, before and after is ridiculous. And I'm actually thankful that I'm alcoholic, because I just feel like I'm a better human being on the backside of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I understand like struggles a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's made me a better human being and made me be able to relate to people better.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think, I'm active in AA, and I think it's like the best, evangelical tool out there.
It's amazing.
Because, ultimately what is it? It's about surrender at the end of the day. Like, you have to surrender and say, this is life's out of control. You have to surrender that there's a higher power than you in control. Even if you don't know what that higher power is, you have to, for AA to really work, you have to at least admit that. Right. And then that eventually turns into people, well, what do I believe in? And so many times I've seen so many agnostics or atheists eventually have a faith in God. That's amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think that's incredible that you've come out on the other side. And I can't even begin to imagine how that could have been for you, man, and the struggles, and I can't even begin to think it. But I definitely know there might be someone listening that maybe is struggling with some form of addiction. Addiction can look in different forms in different ways. Maybe it might be alcohol, maybe it's something else. What would be your biggest advice for someone struggling with an addiction? What's the biggest thing that you can speak into that?
Surrender.
I
would just kind of leave it at that, like just surrendering that something's got you, and stop trying to pretend like it doesn't.
That's good.
Like I said, life is so much better. I can't even imagine. I couldn't go back.
Wow.
And it's interesting in recovery, like some people really struggle in recovery. I haven't had that issue. Once I went into like surrendered, went in, I tried to deal with all I went into recovery, and they're like, what do you want to get out of it? And I was like, I want to be at peace, because I had no peace. And I was like, I got to get rid of all these resentments I had.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get rid of them.
Wow.
And because, something would happen, it would trigger me, and I'd get this thing, and I'd want to drink.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to deal with these resentments. So I kind of took them head on and just faced them and dealt with them. I had a lot of issues with God, from my dad dying. I didn't think he deserved to die. Truett dying. I didn't think he deserved to die. There's just stuff like that. I had issues, honestly, with my wife and I. We had some tension in our lives early on that I held on to. I had to let that go. So again, I think it was just all about surrender, and
Yeah, wow. That's some real thoughts. What kind of things, or I guess, can you speak more about those struggles with God? I know you mentioned, with the death of your dad and the death of Truett, these tragedies. Can you speak more into your perception of God and how that has maybe been this at one point, this at this point, this? Can you speak on that more into that than just what you said, even more so of what you believe about the nature of God, because that's so important. I think A.W. Tozer says the most important thing we can do is like to think rightly about God, and our perspective of God it has everything to do with everything. Can you speak more on that, man?
I could try.
I know it's a keys related, it's a music thing, but
no.
I just want to dive into this more though.
Yeah, it sounds maybe dumb, but I don't see God as the big genie in the sky anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's supposed to take care of every single thing for us. Mm-hmm. I think God cares for us. He loves us, and he's there for us for what we need. Like, life's going to happen. Things are going to happen in life. But that doesn't take away from who God is to me anymore. Like, before, when things would happen, it's like God was less than who I thought he should be, kind of. I had expectations on God that I don't think needed to be there. I'm not explaining that very well.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I mean, you've been doing music for a long time. You've been doing ministry for a long time. And so I'd love to get more of your thoughts on this, of like who you thought God was, right? In that sense of like, he's this genie, this all perfect, and thinking, well, if I'm on his team, everything will be perfect. Mm-hmm. Like that juxtaposition, like how did you wrestle with that through the years? And with being in CCM, like singing the songs and playing music too, with a genre that is so, there's so much theology in that. Like sometimes with country or pop or whatever, it's a different message. But since you're singing about a God who is always good, how does that, like all the time, like did you always believe that, and did you struggle with that? Obviously, we've had struggles. So like I know you have struggled with that, but just any other thoughts with that over, because it's like I bet in your case you've been a professional musician, and almost to a sense in the CCM band, people idolize, Toby Mac and you and others to be like a professional Christian too. Like, how did you wrestle with all of that, the being on stage and wrestling with addiction and then the loss of family members? Like, would love to know more.
I had a lot of expectations on God, but I think part of it was like I put myself on a pedestal, and maybe you're like this, I don't know, but like I've always done the right things. I've always, there's a lot of attaboy in my life.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that creates this thing where you then feel like you have to always live up to that. So I would say I wasn't very vulnerable with people. I wanted to pretend like I had all my stuff together. So I kind of lived like that. And it feels like you're being this fake person. You're not always saying what you actually mean or what you feel. And if you have it's hard to admit when you make a mistake. It's just all that kind of stuff. That's really kind of a lot of what I let go. So I took those expectations sort of off myself as well. And I've just learned to live and not worry about trying to be perfect all the time.
That's good.
And kind of letting it go as much as possible.
That's awesome, man.
I think a lot of it was control, like trying to control outcomes all the time because I want to look perfect. It's the motivation, because I want to look perfect.
Yeah.
I therefore try to think through every possibility of something that might go wrong so that I end up looking good.
Ooh.
And then that's my motivation probably.
Yeah.
And so I've just learned to not live that way anymore. Wow. And not care so much. It sounds bad, but like not really care so much what people think about me anymore. Yeah. And just be yourself, because that's ultimately people will gravitate to you way more than, the shiny guy who's got it all together.
That's good.
Not that you shouldn't pursue that, but
of course
it depends on your motivations have to be right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So good. So with you being in, which thank you for sharing that, man. Thank you so much. With you being in the industry for so long, 25 years nearly, you said, what were the biggest pitfalls that you saw in Christian music industry? I guess I'll just leave it at that. What are some biggest pitfalls you've seen in the industry that you feel comfortable sharing?
Oh man, yeah, I like CCM. I value it. I think it breathes into people.
Yes.
People that don't go to church will listen to CCM.
Absolutely.
And worship, obviously. And so I see the value in it for sure.
It's good.
Like it encourages people. It truly encourages people. Like it changes people's lives. Like people can have a really awful tragedy in their life, hear a song, and it
absolutely
change them. I'd say the downside of it is it's also it's funny in Christian music. It's either all shiny or it's all depressing. It's like the music is really interesting that way. And like as with AA, for example, AA there's like no BS.
That's good. Yeah.
None.
Right.
Everyone's junk is just out there.
Right.
Well, I kind of wish Christianity was like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where everyone's just real.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have this thing where, especially when we're around other Christians, we feel like we have to, I don't know.
You're right.
Be what we're not, or
You're
pretend
right.
to be what we're not.
Absolutely.
Which I don't think is healthy.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So I want to take a moment to talk about Toby Mac's production because his production is so unique.
It is unique, yeah.
It is fun.
He's unique in general for our industry, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like in order for you to make it as one of the greats in CCM, like you obviously have to have a uniqueness about you, like no matter what. And Toby Mac had that, especially, or still has that, not had that, but has continued to have that over the years. And one thing that I love about his music is that he always has a DJ.
Yeah.
What's his name?
DJ Madge.
DJ Madge.
Been with him since Jump. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. And DJing it's definitely a craft. It's definitely an art. It's definitely its own instrument, wouldn't you say?
Oh, most definitely. I have the highest respect for great DJs, to say the least. Like, he's not just pushing buttons to start and stop songs. He's actually scratching,
That's cool. What do you know what he uses for software for
I don't know
turntables
well, I'd say the biggest thing he uses actual vinyl.
Yeah.
So it's digitally controlled vinyl.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
So it's actual vinyl, like old school. So when he's scratching, it's just like it used to be,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
he's very tasteful with it, and he's ridiculous with it. Actually. Yeah.
So when y'all are up on stage, is he always there at every show?
Mm-hmm.
And
Always,
what's his role?
Well,
is he is he scratching the whole time? What's he doing?
He's a multi-instrumentalist. So
he
plays
really
trombone.
Oh yeah.
Because we have a horn section, so he plays trombone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he plays percussion really well, and he plays some keys.
That's amazing.
So he's sort of an aux DJ, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
I'm a DJ as well. I mainly do weddings and
Yeah.
do like mashups and beat matching and stuff like that.
Which is an art too.
Which is there's some different techniques within the DJ world. But what I love about Toby Mac's music is you will literally hear DJ Madge scratching on a lot of the songs. There's so many different techniques that you can do with DJing, but I think that's really unique that he's kept a DJ on stage. Super cool. So speaking of DJ world, I want to talk about Trax world. Do you have any stories
that's
with
my
Trax
arch
world?
nemesis.
Oh goodness, yeah. And have y'all been using Trax from the beginning of your Toby Mac days, or has it been a more recent thing? Tell us about that, man.
No, we've been using Trax from the beginning. We're using Trax at DC Talk.
Awesome, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what technology were
Back
you?
with DC Talk?
Yeah.
When I joined, they had just went from using ADATs.
An ADAT, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like that was a pain. That was a real pain. But when I came on, they had just switched over to using computers and Logic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Super cool. So tell me about the ADAT world.
Gosh, I never, other than like some recording I did at other studios, I never actually had ADAT gear. So
Okay.
I don't know if I could talk about it too much. I'd say the biggest thing was there are 8 tracks, and then you'd have to sync all of those together. So you could have, depending on your setup, you could have 4 ADATs running or 8 ADATs running to try to record everything. So it was
cool.
Yeah.
Cool, but
a lot.
not so cool.
Not so cool. Yeah.
It's cool that was the thing, and then now it's gone.
Yeah. Thank God.
Now we're all digital, so
Thank God.
a lot less space. Very easy, just put it in the backpack and go. Zip it up, and you have it. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you moved, and you were using what in the early 2000s for Trax?
Logic.
Logic Pro.
Yeah, because
okay.
Logic would open up multiple sessions at once. So you'd
Gotcha.
open up the set in reverse order.
Okay.
So your last song you'd open up first, and all the way, so that as you end a song, the next song is there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So if every end a song, you just quickly close it and start the next song.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any problems running Trax?
I've had lots of problems running Trax.
Would you like to share any stories?
Yeah. Honestly, so I've been Toby's music director as well for
That's very cool.
for the whole time, and
that's a big job. I mean, it's not just a casual thing. Like you're directing the whole band. You're in charge of them.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Knowing the music.
Yeah.
And executing it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speak on that, man. Speak on all that, bro.
There's that, and so as far as tracks, though, I was also doing tracks, and the tracks is what drove me crazy. And it's the thing I worried about the whole time during the show, like what's, just waiting for something. I'm always on pins and needles,
Yeah.
But yeah, some scary times there. Well, I've had so many problems over the years. I did it for 25 years, so but
yeah,
some moments. I'll share this one real quick.
Okay.
We were doing Billy Graham with DC Talk back in the day.
Oh wow.
And a camera guy stepped on my power.
No.
So all my tracks went out. My tracks went out.
No.
By the way, since then, I never have a box with a power on-off switch on it.
Right.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Never have a power strip with an on-off switch.
So that was a scary one. And also Toby had set up the wrong song. So we went to start the song, and not only did he set up the wrong song, the tracks aren't working either. So it was like this, what do we do in this moment right here? Because not only can't I start the right song, he's just set up the wrong song. So it was like this weird chaos in the moment, but we got through it.
Oh no.
It's a great thing about a band, like usually someone will step up to cover up whatever's going on.
That's good.
But probably the scariest track issue, we were playing with Toby about 5 or 6 years ago, and we happened to be playing in Nashville, which is why I think our drummer was super excited that night to play in front of all the people we know.
Yeah.
And he's very entertaining, but he's like really like being demonstrative.
Yeah.
And this had never happened before.
Oh.
My laptops would sit on top of on a board on top of my keyboard setup.
Yeah.
And so I just started noticing that and I was like, oh shoot. So I'm like, keep pulling them down, but at some point he like got real big, and both my laptops like jump off of my bounce, I should say, off of my riser. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and the tracks just stop. We got through the song, but then we can't. There's no tracks.
Yeah.
Tracks are on the ground. So it took, I don't know. It felt like an hour, but it took about 7 or 8 minutes to get back up and running.
Oh
I had opened up both laptops. One of them wouldn't start. The other one of them thankfully did, and I had to wait for it to load Ableton.
Yikes.
And that was not such a great moment.
That's scary. So when you were trying to get it back up and running, what did y'all do in that?
They're like just wasting time with the crowd, like trying to make up stuff to talk, or they're making up stuff to talk about while they're just wasting time.
Yeah.
Toby Toby, he's a phenomenal communicator. Yeah. So I mean, he was able to cover it. It was really funny though, because he's trying to like cover up the time, and one of our guys, he's passed away now, but Gabe Pitfalls was very, very funny. Just very entertaining and funny. Yeah. Toby's like, tell him a joke, Gabe. And Gabe's like, nope. Nope. Awkward. Literally, he was like, nope.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Tracks are, and I love them and hate them all at the same time.
Right.
We've done like a couple acoustic tours where we're not using any tracks, or very, very minimal. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite because you're just free to play, and you're not depending on tracks. You kind of man up to fill up the space. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What's your favorite thing to play on the piano in the piano world and with production world? What has been your favorite thing with Toby Mac?
You know, a lot of Toby's progressions can be kind of fun, you know. Mm-hmm. So they just lend themselves to like creativity. Like
yeah,
he has a song called "Made to Love," and it's real simple, but that kind of progression can be. But a lot of his early music especially had just fun progressions that we could have a lot of leeway with.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. That's awesome, man. Did you have anything you wanted to play in particular that was on the keys that you wanted to turn around for and play?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll tell you a story and then I'll play.
Yeah. Because like the logistics of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, Toby's very involved in the show, putting the show together.
Yeah.
Like, we're sort of his supporting cast, so we're all like, he has a vision for the show, and he's great at knowing what works and doesn't work, mm-hmm. and tweaking it. This was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. We were about to do a theater tour.
Yeah.
And he had just finished up the record he was working on, so he was so like, he was amped up to like add all these new songs to the set.
Right.
And so he was feeling very creatively just like full of energy. Like he had all kinds of ideas. We're literally rehearsing 12-hour days, like back to back.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Right.
You're kind of mentally gone at a little bit at that point. But he's driving it, man, and he's excited and he's pushing forward. And he had this idea, and it was funny because he's hearing this thing in his head that he wants to be like an intro to one of his songs.
Yeah.
And he's describing it, and he's literally like it should be like, and he's like crazy, and he's literally like lifting up his leg and being animated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What do you mean? So I recorded him doing it so I could kind of work on what he was talking about. So I worked on it for a while, but it was.
And a big thing is that Toby Mac's a big visionary, right? He's a big dreamer, and he's so creative in that aspect. And you said he's not primarily an instrumentalist, but
he doesn't play anything at all. Not really. He's got great ideas
and melodies, right?
Yeah, he hears melodies, lyrics, and he hears the music too often, but he just can't play it. Cool. He can kind of sing his ideas sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's really good at that.
Oh, yes.
Very good at it. Yeah, so he's always working with whatever producer he's working with. He'll throw them ideas, and then you got to kind of figure out what he's... And that was kind of the same thing. So I was trying to figure out what he was singing, and so to me it sounded kind of like... It almost like a mix of Chopin and Debussy, kind of what he was singing. So this is what I eventually came up with. I love the end part here, kind of like an E flat 13. So, yeah, simple and nice.
Yeah, so I really love that, especially that little run there with the, what was that again? E flat?
It's kind of E flat 13 or E flat 6.
Okay. I was thinking of it like a C minor. It was like C minor over E flat, but then add it. So yeah, it would be the E flat, whatever. That was a cool little run. I think I might try to start using that. Who knows? Very, very cool. But I love how you shared that story of just he had this vision, and the only way he knew how to. I shouldn't say vision because some people think.
Oh yeah.
He had this idea of something big, and you're just like, this is what it. How many moments did you have that? With Toby Mac, and talk more into production side of things, since you did a lot of producing with him. How did that usually flow and go?
Oh man, with Toby, he's very involved in all of his production. I like to say like a monkey could produce with Toby and it would probably turn out great.
That's amazing.
But he'll drive you crazy for sure because he wants to try every single idea that he hears in his head. So you'll do all the things. He'll have a vocal idea. You'll record like 16 tracks of an idea vocally. Mm-hmm. You'll clean it all up real fast, put it together, try it, and he'll listen to it and be like, nah. And then so you nix it and you go back to the previous version. Yeah. But there's all those versions that you're creating, and then Toby will later be like, hey, you remember when we did that? I think I do want to go back to that. Okay. So then you got to go find that idea that was way far away. Yeah. But he tweaks to death, but he's always, making it better, like trying to figure out what's missing in a song, and he's a perfectionist really.
That's awesome.
At the end of the day.
That's great.
But I love how his career has, or I should say his production has, how it's evolved over time.
Yeah.
And his current record is so much depth to it,
How so?
Well, I just mean he's talking about some difficult things,
Yeah.
It's just a lot more thought provoking,
Absolutely.
No, I mean when we first started it was just like raucous, and now it's a little bit more, I don't know, just dealing with real life, Yeah. Not that his music wasn't before, but it was just a little bit more fun and positive.
Right.
As opposed to like deep and thoughtful.
Absolutely.
I don't know if,
Right.
Yeah. He'd probably be mad if I'm not mad, but he'd be like, hey, what are you saying about me?
What are you saying about me?
I'm not fun anymore? No. He's definitely still puts on a great show, obviously.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. He is so entertaining. Toby Mac is one of my favorites in the CCM world. Just incredible entertainer. And can you speak about his heart of worship as well? Like I know he's known in the CCM world, and CCM is known for entertaining and putting on a good show, but also can you speak on his heart a little bit?
Yeah. For Toby, he would say that all of his music is worship music.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's not always about a corporate worship song.
You're right.
Like his song "Made to Love." I was made to love you. I was made to find you. Gosh, I'm terrible with lyrics, but
I was made just for you, made to adore you.
Yeah.
I was made to be loved by you.
To be loved by you. Like that's a worship lyric, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's got lots of those.
So good.
So I think his heart is worship. Like I think his daily life is worship.
That's good. Right, and that's important.
More than like a song. His life is worship.
Come on, that's so good, man. I want you to share the story. Now I know that was a very serious point there. This is kind of a crazy story of that when you got. Well, I don't know how to preface it. I know you shared the story before. Can you share this crazy story of how do I preface it? The one where you fell off the stage.
Yeah, I fell off the stage pretty darn good.
Yeah. Yeah, share that story, man. I don't know how to preface it.
This was probably about 12 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. When
Toby has a tour called Hits Deep that goes out every year, the original idea was it would be only hits. And
gotcha.
Our band would be the house band for everyone.
Okay.
So that's like the first 2 or 3 years of the tour. That's how it was.
Yeah.
So we were the house band for everyone. And so we're on the very first night of the first tour we're doing this. I'm music directing the whole night basically. And I'm running all the tracks for every artist.
For everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So the day of the first show, we got done rehearsing, and then of course there's a bunch of tweaks I need to make from our rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I'm making those. I make them. Get a phone call from my son. So I was like, grab it because I'm basically done. Walk off my riser, and my whole touring life, I've got about 8 to 10 feet behind my riser.
Right.
So my riser's here, and then this back of stage is like 8 feet this way.
Yeah.
On this particular tour, for whatever reason, they decided to be more efficient to make all of our risers about 2 feet from the back of the stage. So I think just not thinking, I walk years of touring, right? I walk off and I walk to where the stairs normally are, but I don't have that much depth. So I literally, the lights were on when I stepped down, and then they went off. And then so I can't really see. So I start walking to where I think the stairs are, but they're not there. So I just fall off the back of the stage. And when I did, I like pulled in, like to protect myself.
And we're talking about like, it's like a 5-foot stage or?
It was 4 feet.
4 feet, okay, 4
feet
foot
high.
stage, yeah.
So I walk off and I pull in like this, and when I do, I land, and immediately I knew I was in trouble. Like I knew I was in trouble. So as much as you can scream, I screamed as loud as I could, just so someone would hear me, because I knew I was going to pass out. So I passed out, and I wake up and I've got like everyone around me.
Oh.
I can't breathe.
Oh.
I'd hit my head a little bit too, so I was a little out of it. And they call the ambulance, and they want to take me. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, it's going to be $500 to get it to ride the ambulance. And I was thinking about all the times my wife were like, don't get in the ambulance, is what's going in my head. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'll be all right. So I sat there for a while, and I'm just like in crazy pain. So runner in a van takes me, and I'm like in the van, and I start crying because I'm in so much pain. So I get there. I don't really know what I've hurt. I think maybe I've just bruised something or twisted a muscle. Well, the doctor comes in and he says, like, you have 5 broken ribs.
Oh my goodness.
Or broken or fractured. And he's like, you're not going anywhere. You're going to need to spend the night here so you don't puncture a lung or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, and I can't talk. I'm like, you don't understand. I got to, like I've got, everything's riding kind of on me. So I'm like, I got to get there. So I ended up playing that night.
Oh my gosh, no, you didn't.
Yeah, I just sat on a stool and didn't move and just kind of ran the show like.
This guy broke 5 ribs, falling off a stage, went to the hospital and said, "I got a show to make." That is dedication.
People don't do that these days.
Oh my gosh.
They call out.
Right. Like, I'm not going to make it tonight. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe.
Yeah, that was probably dumb, actually. You do dumb stuff.
You're right. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe that. That is wild. That is wild, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that was
insane.
wild. So the next 2 weeks, I'm rolling around in a wheelchair on tour.
Absolutely.
Looking pathetic.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, but show must go on.
Oh man, at least, well, yeah, there was no good thing about that. But I was gonna say, at least you weren't the drummer having to move all around.
You couldn't have done that.
Yeah,
you couldn't have played drums for sure.
Gosh, so crazy, man.
Yeah,
so crazy. Well, do you have any other final words on your 25-year-long career as a professional musician, producer, Grammy Award-winning producer, keys player, songwriter? Do you have any final story or advice for anyone starting out? I know, like, it might seem like a long time ago from when you started off and what's going on now, and can you speak to any changes you've seen in the industry and any advice you would give to any musician?
Dude, I mean, gosh, that's a huge question.
I know, right?
That's a huge question. But I think the thing I would probably say would enjoy the moment where you are, like not where you think you want to be. Like if you think you want to be on a stage touring with some major artist, go for it. Like go for it, but be happy where you're at. Because if you're not happy where you are today, you're not going to enjoy that anymore. You're going to be miserable probably. Because once you actually get there, it's just not going to be what you think it is. It's going to be, if you're not happy where you are, you're not going to be happy there either. So
yeah, that's good.
Don't think that that's, the end all.
That's good.
I could probably say that way better.
No, that's great. That's great. No, I love it. I love it. I love that, man.
That's probably the one piece of advice I'd say. I used to just be your best wherever you're at. So like if you're at a church playing music every Sunday, be the best at that in that moment,
That's good.
and treat that well. And then you have a much higher likelihood that other things will come your way. When you're the person someone can depend on,
That's good. And you said Toby Mac's one of the most loyal people you've ever known. Is that right?
He's probably the most loyal person I've ever known.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. It's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so thankful for the journey I've had. I was able to actually do what I wanted to do in high school. I wanted to be touring with Christian bands.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that worked out. But I also know it could have easily not worked out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're in Nashville, and there's so many ridiculous musicians all around.
Oh, I know
It
it.
could have easily have been someone else.
Crazy, man.
So
Praise God for that. Well, I'm glad it was you.
Yeah, me too.
So glad it was you.
Me too.
Well, what's next? I mean, what's next in your life? I mean, you still have so many things you could do and produce and write and play. What's next for you, man, in this next season of life?
Yeah, I'm trying to enjoy the next season, and I'm not playing out a ton. I've got some things I'm doing with some friends, which is I'm actually super excited about, and I love the idea of maybe just playing with friends, and I don't know, for an 80s cover band for a night or something. Like that stuff actually makes me excited.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I got into real estate like 4 years ago, so that's what I do pretty much full time.
Awesome.
I've got a couple other businesses we're doing with our family.
Very
we
cool.
started a mobile grooming business, and it's going well.
That's awesome.
I'm not grooming. My son's mostly running it.
Nice.
But
nice.
yeah, I'm just enjoying life, man. I'm in a great place, and I'm just thankful.
So good. Well, just please know that you made a big impact on a lot of people's lives. Being a part, I know, of under Toby Mac. I know Toby Mac's the name and the artist that you played for, but I know you made a big difference in being his friend. I know he's made a big difference in your life as well.
Absolutely.
And I know people were blessed by hearing your story and hearing just a little bit into your life. I know we only have like an hour or less that we kind of share of just brief stuff that will help someone, but I hope this is encouraging to someone, if you're listening, if you're watching, to know that, Dave said, it could have well been someone else. You never know. I mean, and I definitely believe in divine providence and God's plan, God's will, and obviously with us, still having free will to do what we can do and be prepared. But when that opportunity came, you auditioned, you got the call, and then the rest was history for you 25 years later. And
yeah,
now you're off the road. But I think it's really cool, and it's really encouraging for anyone else wanting to do music that you can. That you can do this thing in whatever capacity that looks like within your church, within a touring world.
Absolutely.
And of course, all glory to God. And there's so many hard things that you've been through, and praise God for being sober for 16 months. That's incredible, like, first and foremost. And then touring with Toby for so long, and the impact that you've made there, and the Grammy you've won, just the blessing that is. I know you said it was kind of out of nowhere. But thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your experience, your story.
Thanks for having me.